Previously on the Colour Gravy Yapcast.
I went through my thoughts and theories on the then upcoming game Clear a la Mode, and
This time on the Colour Gravy Yapcast,
I will be going over each theory I posited in that video, and we will see how much I got right and how much I got wrong. So, going through these in order, the first theory I crafted was basically that the point of the Bake Team's mission was to take Bee's title away from her. Which I was sort of right about. Sort of because I also thought that part of that purpose was to bestow the title onto one of the Bake Team's members. Which did end up happening, but wasn't actually one of their goals from the offset. It seems like they just needed to make Bee not have her title. And, you know, even that's not necessarily true. What they really needed was just to win the competition. The fact that it broke out into an actual fight, while probably being known to everyone as inevitable, was really just icing on the cake for our guys. Pun intended. Well, I suppose not actually a pun, it's just a thematic use of a phrase. Anyway, this also means that we never got clarification on a little side theory I mentioned, which was that a title could be won by contests other than a physical fight. But maybe some other time. It also means that we don't truly know if their goal was to take Bee's title. On one hand, it would make sense if it was, because her no longer being a titled would mean that the Knights of Grevenfell could finally get involved with taking Bee down and arrest her and stuff, since as a titled she basically had a fucked up version of diplomatic immunity. On the other hand, it would also make sense if they just needed to keep Bee distracted for long enough that the other teams could finish off their missions, so not necessarily winning the competition, but at least staying in it until the final face-off against Bee. So I'm gonna say that I was half right on this one. But to give myself an extra point here, a secondary theory I mentioned during this one was that Bee's power is purely political. And not only can we see from the story that that is the case, it's made even more certain when you unlock her as a playable character and her special ability is just an Ojo-sama laugh. My next theory was about why Bee is even doing all of this, and I presented both most likely options. Either she's under instructions from Sigrid, or she's under instructions from the Dawn Cult. I decided that the Dawn Cult was the most likely, since it was kinda hard to come up with a good reason to justify all of this if it was Sigrid's decision. And I was bang on the money, Bee was indeed working for the Dawn Cult.
However,
it seems like she kinda got a little bit carried away with herself. The Dawn's plan appeared to be to draw Sigrid to Bee after she kicked up enough of a fuss, and then use this special weapon to warp her into the Colourless Void. I do want to talk about this plan more in depth another time, because it also seems like they don't really care that isn't what ended up happening. They seem perfectly happy with the fact that Sigrid was distracted by something else. Though we do have to assume that this was before Bee wasted the weapon, which for all we know wasn't meant to be used for a long time yet. Or at the very least it's possible that the Dawn just went, oh, Sigrid's not taking the bait, but she is distracted by something else for now, so let's use this as an opportunity to move some other pieces on the board and we can always banish her with the weapon some other time. You know, again, before Bee wasted it. Do you think Bee knew that she would be sent to the Void as well? Or better yet, do you think she even knew what it did in general, let alone how it specifically worked? I'm gonna guess no on that one, because she is just way too narcissistic to willingly sacrifice herself for any reason as far as I can tell. Anyway, as I said, Bee was working for the Dawn, absolutely nailed it, and let's keep that streak going, because the very next theory that I put forward was that we were gonna fight Belle. And we did. Now, you might be thinking, what? Belle? We didn't fight Belle, when did we fight Belle? And if you are thinking that, pay attention! Pay attention to the game you are playing! This is Belle. For one thing, she gets called a clown. Sure, bit of a meta clue, doesn't really strictly mean anything on its own. But then there's the Dawn symbol over one of the eyes on her mask, just like Alexa's, her mother. Maybe all Dawn Cult masks are like that though. But then there's the thing about her holding back when fighting against the Heart Team. Alright, but if it were someone else being controlled against their will, they'd probably try to do the same thing. But then there's the weapon she uses. Very interesting choice, a big metal ball that is thrown and then comes back to its wielder. It's basically a manual chime. And if all of that really isn't enough, there's the most obvious clue of all, the music. This character is undeniably Belle, and as I predicted, we did in fact fight her. Twice! Now, she wasn't the final boss like I predicted, so I'll only give myself half a point again, but more importantly, none of the other characters that interact with her realise who she is. She never speaks, and she's never spoken to by anyone who does know who she is. And on top of all of that, she doesn't get caught. So we never get to know why she's working with the Dawn or how the situation came to be like this in the first place. All we do know is that she went missing almost immediately after the events of Cursecrackers, because we learn from multiple characters that about a year has passed since then, and later on we learn that Belle has been missing for about a year too. So for those keeping track, that means that this game takes place 11 years after Prodigal and 4 years before Veritas. I do intend to make a timeline video quite soon now that we have this information, so keep an eye out for that in the next 2 to 36 months. And finally, the poll. Look, before we get into the theories, I just want to apologise for my behaviour in response to the poll results. The entire city of Gravenfell being dropped into the ink sea of the Colourless Void was not on my Claire Alamo bingo card, and it was sick as fuck. I am so glad that a place didn't win now. As for what did win, we were told in the Colorgrave Discord server, come and join us, link in the video description, that we probably wouldn't be able to tell who we saved, but that we probably would be able to figure out what the place and thing that we didn't save were. The place is pretty obvious, Gravenfell, but the thing, it's hard to say. The only thing I can think of is the warp weapon itself, the thing that was used when we lost the place. Imagine if that was still on the table. Imagine if it actually got used on Sigrid. Wait a fucking minute. Did you fuckers actually save Sigrid with that poll? I take my apology back. I am pissed at you again. Okay, so, back when the poll was made, 3 paths lay before us, 3 possible timelines. 1, the one that we got, the person is saved, Sigrid is distracted by another situation and doesn't come to Gravenfell, B uses the weapon, and it is lost along with the entire city. 2, Sigrid does come to Gravenfell, B uses the weapon as intended, and it again is lost, but this time just along with Sigrid. Maybe the weapon can be used in multiple ways, or maybe their encounter would have taken place outside of the city, something like that. Either way, Gravenfell remains. And 3, actually, how would we lose Sigrid and Gravenfell without the use of the weapon? Maybe the weapon wasn't the thing then, but if not that, then what? Something important, surely, something that was probably in Gravenfell and was lost when it was? Maybe Chime got left behind for some reason? But surely that would have been shown in some way, or at least implied, right? You know, I'm starting to second guess myself here, maybe I got a bit too riled. Riley? Maybe the person we saved was actually Toan, and if person didn't win the poll, Riley would have fully killed him? I mean, good news if you're Sir Toan. If that's the case, it would mean that he's actually alive right now, because it's kinda still up in the air if he's just dead right here or not. Anyway, I could go on about who is what and stuff for ages, so let's just wrap this up. That is all for the pre-release theories. I think I did pretty well. I got more right than I got wrong. Maybe just barely, but even still. Now, obviously, there is plenty more to dive into with all the lore revealed to us in this game, but that can wait until another time. For now, I must return to my chambers and rest my weary noggin. Goodbye. Why did I do that?